You support Donald Trump?
I do.
And why do you support Donald Trump?
In the long run, the country will be better.
Why so?
Less people taking advantage of the systems that are meant to help people that actually need it.
Really? Because Donald Trump said to big fossil fuel companies that if they gave him $1 billion for his campaign, he'd give them $110 billion in tax cuts, along with the fact that that would be total waste, along with the fact that the subsidy specifically that he increases and wants for fossil fuel companies is literally waste on our systems. The corporate subsidies across the board, the massive tax breaks for millionaires and billionaires, those are the wastes in our system. The corporate tax loopholes, those are the wastes in our system, not people who are, receiving Medicaid and food stamps who are in need. Right? I think that's ridiculous that you say that that's the waste on our system, especially because it's such a small portion of the budget.
Yeah, but there's a big portion of the people that actually need those benefits that don't necessarily meet the requirements to actually receive them.
Yeah, that's actually due to the policies you're advocating for. There will be more people that actually need those benefits that aren't going to
No, no, no,
receive the
no, no,
benefits.
no. No, I'm 36 years old. I was raised by a single mother who raised three boys by herself, two minimum wage jobs, and didn't qualify for food stamps. And we
And
struggled.
you agree that she shouldn't have had to have two jobs just to survive? That's ridiculous. We want to create a
We shouldn't.
society where people are provided a living wage, and it is the case that you don't have to work two jobs to be able to
That's not my
live,
point.
to be able to
That's
provide
not
for
my
your
point.
children. And that's why we wanted
That's
to
not my
increase the
point.
child tax credit. That's why we want access to food stamps and Medicaid, so that in circumstances where people have children, especially, it is the case that they are given access to those particular types of things because they are necessities to ensure that children, right, and everyone within our society are given bare necessities, right, things that they need to survive.
That's not my point. I was born in 1989, and those benefits were out there for us to receive while she was struggling, and we did not get them.
And they
And
should
she
have
was
been
working.
given to you if you guys were struggling. That's exactly what I'm saying. We should extend those benefits so that your family should have been able to get them.
And then I'm working. I am just being able to pay my bills now. I work 50 hours a week, and I can barely pay for the things
You
I need
shouldn't
for
have
my.
to. No one in this country should have to work more than 40 hours a week in order to be able to ensure that they have everything taken care of in their life
Parker, you're not
that
getting
they
my
need.
point, dude. You're not getting my point. My point is, I'm 36 years old, and this has not worked for people that actually need it. So
Um,
how long are we supposed to wait before these benefits, or we get a president and an administration that actually sets it up for the people that actually need him and aren't taking advantage, aren't fraudulent, are actually trying to work these jobs,
I don't know what you mean by
don't
frauding and
necessarily.
stuff like that. So I believe in a universal healthcare system. Everyone should have access to healthcare in this country. No
I
one in this
didn't say
country should go
anything
without
about
access to
healthcare.
health insurance, right? If we want to reference
Healthcare didn't
food
come out of my
and food
mouth.
stamps, everyone in this country should have adequate access to food and nutrition. Every
I
single
agree.
person. Okay? So if you agree with me on those two fronts, well, then you disagree with the work requirements that are imposed specifically through the context of food stamps and through the context of Medicaid that then restrict people from getting access to food and health insurance that you
Okay,
believe should be provided as a bare necessity to everyone within this country.
so let me reroute my point, I guess. It's not Donald Trump that's the problem. It's been a problem for at least 36 years, right?
So it's Donald Trump didn't
There's
himself
been, there's
cause
been
so there was a problem before that existed, but Donald Trump has made the problem worse. Does that make sense? There were
I
already
think
not
I
enough
think
people
he's
getting
making
care, but it's made
I
even
think he's
worse because of Donald Trump. There
I
were
think
already
he's
people,
making
45 to 68,000 American lives lost every single year due to lack of health insurance in this country because people can't get access to preventative health insurance or preventative health care because they can't afford it. Right? And if they don't get access to preventative health care, it is the case that in the long run they are more likely to develop chronic disease.
so whose fault was this 10 years ago?
Whose fault is this? It was the fault of our politicians in general. Democrats are also to some degree going to be responsible for it, but it's mostly Republicans.
Okay, so it's Democrats and Republicans.
Mostly
So it comes to my
Republicans.
second point.
Mostly Republicans.
I agree, but it's not just them.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree. There's some Democrats that have
Do
restricted this from
you,
happening.
do you genuinely believe that Donald Trump is the president that those Republicans want in office right now? There's a
Yeah,
lot of mm, to for a
Republicans
reason,
overwhelmingly support Trump.
because he is easily manipulated,
So you
and
agree
they're
that Trump's a
getting.
minute, so you don't support him anymore.
No, I support what comes with him being in office a little bit.
Okay, so if you could go back in time and either vote for Kamala Harris or Donald Trump, who would you vote for?
It Recently I've been a single issue voter. Not a single issue, but just a couple of things that I've reflected on in my life. And I just think the playing field should be more level now. And what they want to do, I think it's not necessarily because Donald Trump's a moron for real.
And you support him?
I support some of the things that will happen with him in that. Because what they really want to do, they want to
Like what?
break down the country. They want to break down the country and build it from scratch.
So Trump is not taking down the entire country and rebuilding from scratch. That's ridiculous. But he is trying to actively undermine our current democratic processes. Right now, he's trying to get different states, like Texas specifically, to redraw their maps and gerrymander themselves more
Yeah.
seats so that they can specifically try to take back 2026 so that they can
Yes.
ingrain more power. And I support specifically, right, what Newsom is doing, right, in fighting back and saying that if Donald Trump does this specifically with Texas, which they are, right, he's going to get the consent of the Californian people, something that they're not doing, and he's going to legally rewrite the bounds of California and make it all blue. I totally support that, right? Living in California, and I think everyone living in California, I think it's November, coming up here in November, I think it's November 4th. Let me go. November 4th, there's a special election, and everyone in California who can should go out there and vote in support of redrawing all of our places blue to fight back. Do not let Republicans take 2026. Fight back. Fight fire with fire. We need this shit if they're going to be doing that. That is necessary for us to instill like our democratic values to ensure that our country, right, stays a democratic country, right? We need to keep that in place, to keep our checks and balances in place. That's very, very important. So go out there and vote, right? If you live in California, I will be doing my due diligence and I will be voting. Absolutely living in California. And I will be ensuring everyone around me votes for the very same thing that I can. And I will be doing my damnest to be able to try and get that to happen.
So do you think what I think? I could be wrong. You're a smart dude. You can prove me wrong if that's the case. But the things he is doing right now via tariffs, him creating enemies of previous allies, and just that type of shit that he's doing. Excuse my language. A, it's gonna ruin the American dollar. Number one, it's gonna isolate us even more. It's gonna make us a bit of an insignificant country where we can start over.
Okay, so he wants to destroy the country then. You want to destroy the country?
Uh, mm, Destroy was a word that I used, and I get it. But if you break it down, there's a lot of problems you can solve if you can somehow
No,
start from
if you
scratch.
break it down, that causes more problems that you have to solve.
Not necessarily.
No, it does. It really does. You now have more problems to solve. So what you need to
Which
do is you
problem?
need to reform the system in a manner in which you can make it better off for people who are in need. There are ways to reform the system in which do that. Breaking down the system creates more problems for you to have to fix because problems in which you broke down, things that already, institutions that already existed, fixes problems, you have to address those problems now because now you don't have institutions that are addressing them. So you can try to create systems that existed that fulfill the same very things, right? But it doesn't actually like do anything if you completely break it down, right? Because
So
you're
what?
going to end up building the same types of structures back up, right? In the same type of connotation. A reform is no different. If you reform, you're changing the structure, and if you
what problem,
destroy and rebuild, you're still changing the structure to something different.
so give me, what problem would it create that we don't already have? We're in debt. Our social issues, we don't need to get started on them necessarily.
Do you want me to give you an
We,
example? If you break down
yeah.
the government because there are issues with how the government functions, well, now you have more problems. People don't have a government they can rely on to ensure
No,
access to health
I
insurance
wasn't
and
really, I
medical
wasn't
care,
really,
right? We don't have a government to defend us. We don't have a police force. We don't have any type of structure of society at all. So there's so many different issues that would exist if you completely eradicate the government just because there are some issues with how the government functions. You can
I
reform the
wasn't
government to
saying the
operate in a manner in which it will be
government.
more effective for the population, but to completely dismantle the government because that is the case, to then rebuild structures that will be similar to exactly how a government functions would be ridiculous. So breaking it down to be able to rebuild it up makes no sense to do when you can just reform it into the type of society that you want.
I wasn't talking about the government necessarily.
I'm giving an example. It's an analogy.
Okay, I give you that. But we got away from my initial point, because there are things that you and others like you, like Dean and whatnot, when it comes to Snap and stuff like that. And when I say that stuff doesn't work, because there are work requirements, there have been work requirements for a very long time that people need to meet and still do not require for that stuff and still struggle.
Okay. All right.
So
Well, is there
how long do we give our tax dollars to those things and we don't get the benefits from them
Okay,
like
so
we're
this is
supposed
a
to?
very small portion of the budget. You are losing more money by voting for Donald Trump because he's adding trillions of dollars to the debt. Because it is the case of the big beautiful bill, adds $3.4 trillion to the debt. Decreases
Not
after-tax
just the
income for the bottom
big
20%
beautiful
of income
bill in
earners,
this
for the
economy.
bottom 10% by over $1,200 a year. So Donald Trump's policies will not save us money by cutting people off of health insurance and food stamps. Overall, we still lose money.
How many Democratic presidents have we had in the last 36 years?
I have to go look back.
But my point is, there's
It's
been
since the
Democratic
1990s.
presidents, and
Since
it hasn't
1990,
changed. It
there's
hasn't changed.
been
There's still been struggles. There's still been
three.
problems. There's still been struggles. There's still been problems. It doesn't matter who's in office. So maybe like, who are we advocating for when we're giving food stamps and stuff like that?
Who are we advocating for when we're looking
Yeah,
for
when
people in need who cannot afford food?
which was my mother and us being raised,
And that's what I'm
and we
saying. We
didn't.
should expand those systems so that you should have been able to get access to
How
it,
long?
given that you
How
were in
long
need.
should we wait?
For wait, we need to
Do you think
put.
it's ever going to
Wait,
happen?
wait, wait. When you say how long should we wait, that's not really a question. Like I don't think we should wait at all, right, for these systems to exist. But how long will we have to wait is the real question when you support candidates in which gut these programs. We're going to have to wait a hell of a lot longer if you continue to gut these programs to be able to
Again,
extend them to
initially,
people who need them. You're the one gutting the program. You're the one making it take longer. Do you not realize that?
but if those programs don't exist, doesn't that incentivize people to work more, get more educated to make more money?
Wait, repeat that?
If those programs don't exist, doesn't that incentivize people to actually get out there and work more, maybe become more
So
educated,
you
get
could
better
say
jobs to make
starving
more?
to death works as an incentive to get people to go out and work. But there are better ways to incentivize people to work that
It's
don't
easy.
include
It's
starving people to death,
easy to
including
go to
children,
that
by the way.
extreme. It's easy to go to that extreme to say starving, and I get it. No, we
No, that's
shouldn't
exactly what you're
be
saying. You're saying
starving.
the threat of
It's not what I'm
starvation
saying. I
will
didn't
get more
say
people to work.
I didn't say at the snap of a Thanos finger just completely get rid of it. That's not what I said. But if you say limit Section 8 benefits to 2 years, that's just an example. You got 2 years of help with your rent and things like that to get your stuff together. Do you think that you get that point?
Um,
I'm not
I
saying I'm not saying do away with it all just instantly. Just
No, you don't want to do away with this. You want to ensure that people have a baseline standard. The point of these are safety nets. A safety net is to ensure that if someone falls through the cracks of the system, that they are caught by something that allows them to be brought back up to the system so that they can engage in social mobility.
Okay, so
That's the
let
point of
me
a
ask
social
this one
safety net, is to
question one more
ensure
time.
that no one is left behind. No one's left behind.
I'm gonna ask this question one more time. So what for the people that work their ass off and struggle and still can't provide but don't
That's
meet
who I'm fighting for. That's when I come on here every single day and I'm advocating for universal healthcare systems, childcare systems, paid family leave, paid maternity leave, paid paternity leave, right? Better working conditions, higher wages, right? Having a higher minimum wage, things like that. Increase wages, create better working conditions for people who currently cannot afford it. Right now in this country, we haven't had an increased minimum wage on a federal standpoint since 2009. 2009, and you have people in Congress specifically who are saying, oh, we haven't had an increase in terms of our salary since 2009, like Mike Johnson, while simultaneously arguing that we shouldn't increase the minimum wage.
I don't care about them or him. And since 2009, we've had what, two Democratic presidents, Obama and Biden. They weren't able to get that raised either. So if you take those
Obama,
programs,
that was a raise under Obama, and you're saying that they couldn't at other points. That's because of Congress. Congress has to do that.
okay, so that's another point of mine. If you get down to it and figure it out, like there's no one you can elect that's going to solve these problems.
Yes, there is.
Right.
You can,
So
we can get people in Congress. If you get enough people in Congress who support increasing the minimum wage will increase. I'm sorry, do people like forget how democracy functions and forget how democracy works? If you get enough attention to an issue, if you get enough people to go out and there and vote, you can change things. I'm some random kid who grew up in Iowa, right? Because I wanted to do something about the state of affairs that existed in my country, I did something about it. Now there's thousands of people that listen to me every single day because I did something about it, because I actually tried to do something. Instead of just thinking about it, I went out and did something. Right? That's exactly what I'm trying to get people to go out and do. Protest in ways in which they are effective at. This is a way I protest in which I'm effective at. There's so many different ways that people can do that in their own lives and skills in which they have, in which they can bring to normie communities these different types of views. Because we are heavily lacking in normie communities, right? In typical areas of life, not just the heavily hyper-politicalized spaces, right? Hyper-politicized spaces. We need to be in the normie spaces where people aren't very political. It needs to be commonplace to care about people, to want compassion for people around you, and to want people to have basic needs. And to also know that you can do so in a fiscally responsible way. There are fiscally responsible ways to ensure that people are also going to be taken care of, right? You don't have to, while also advocating for progressive policy, also advocate to not be fiscally responsible, because it's inevitable reality that if we are not fiscally responsible right now, our children will have to suffer because of it, because they will have higher interest payments on their debt and they'll be able to pay for less in terms of benefits because of it. Their benefits will decrease over time because it is the case that we're putting so much money into the debt. So actually the debt that exists right now, because it's so high in terms of the interest payments, that actually is antithetical to the American dream. It's making it worse off for our children than it was for us. Also, not addressing climate change. You have a person in the position of president who literally doesn't believe climate change is caused by humans, who thinks the climate's going to start cooling and that science just doesn't know it yet. That's actively ridiculous.
Climate change is caused by humans.
What's up?
I don't think climate change is caused by humans.
Okay. Well, you're the problem.